starting in pre-primary and primary in the UK before specializing in special education needs. He has lived and worked in multiple countries across Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, with experience in teaching and teacher training, assessment, and also educational development. He is now based in Dubai. Okay. Welcome, Nathan. We are so excited and happy to welcome you back to Educational Webinar Jam. Okay. The floor now is all yours, Nathan. So you're good to go.
Hi, Lamia. How are you doing?
I'm good.
And hi, everybody. I just realized that because we're using Google Meet, I cannot share my slides and see the messages within Google Meet. That's going to be a bit of a problem, but we'll work around it. It's okay. I'm trying.
Read the messages for you if there's like a question or comment in the middle. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm trying to open it on my phone as well to see if I can track it that way. Let's see. Let's see how we get on. But thank you very much, Lamia, for the introduction, and a warm welcome to everybody. Thank you for taking time on your Saturday evening to come and join us. Let me go back to this. So I've now lost you all. I can't see who is there or what you're saying, but I'll try and track it on my phone. Don't worry. I hope you're all doing well on this lovely, in Dubai. It's a very sunny Saturday evening. It's a little hot and humid in Dubai. We're waiting for the temperature to cool down, but we're indoors. We've got a nice cup of tea, and hopefully you guys will enjoy working together on a nice, short professional development session. I'd like to thank Lamia, but I'd also like to thank Maria from Educational Webinar Jam for inviting me to come and join you guys and do some professional development, as I said, on the weekends. And this evening, I want to look a little bit at using stories in the classroom and how stories can, in my opinion, help our students to bridge that gap between the receptive skills, us teaching them the language, and the production skills, the skills that they find a little bit more tricky, a little bit more difficult to do. Good. I can see some people writing in the chat box there. So if you haven't met me before, let me tell you who I am. My name is Nathan Waller, and as Lamia said, I am a teacher trainer for Macmillan Education. I'm also their marketing manager and academic services manager. And I've been with Macmillan for not 180 years, but Macmillan's been around for 180 years, but I've been with them for 5 or 6 years now. I live in Dubai, and I work with teachers all across the Middle East and North Africa. So I get to travel quite a lot, which is fantastic. I also run our professional development.
And welcome to the MENA PD Academy.
Hopefully you can hear this.
Macmillan Education's professional development platform for English language teachers in the MENA region. Our academy is here to support teachers with all aspects of their professional development, so together we can continue to advance learning across MENA. We host a range of free professional development activities, including webinars and face-to-face events, our online training modules, and we are always looking at ways of giving teachers a voice through our ELT Time MENA podcast and providing a platform for teachers to meet and share in our academy staff room. We also provide additional support for those customers in MENA who are teaching with Macmillan Education courses. And all of our activities are informed by you guys, our teachers, through our MENA Insights Research Program. So, visit us at www.menapdacademy.com and become a member today. Or join us on our MENA PD Academy socials on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. See you soon.
Okay, so 60 seconds of what I do on a day-to-day basis. I am here to help teachers, empower teachers, inspire teachers, help them with their professional development. And I do that through this academy. If you missed that website, don't worry, we can put it in the chat box as well, or you can scan this QR code. And we run at Macmillan events and activities all through the academic year. And the very first one for this academic year is coming up, actually. It is going to be this Tuesday. There's going to be an Advancing Learning Day, and we're going to be looking at the contemporary ELT teacher. So you're here today for an hour of professional development, but if you'd like to do another couple of hours, we can, I'll put this in the chat box. Someone's already done it. There you go. So join us again on Tuesday. We're going to be looking at the contemporary ELT teacher. So how is a teacher today different from a teacher 10 years ago or 20 years ago? There's lots of things, lots of similarities within the classroom itself, teaching vocabulary, teaching grammar, skills, these types of things. But there's a lot of things for teachers now which are very, very different. How do we interact with social media, for example? You might not want to be an influencer, but you might follow people, you might get ideas from them. How can we use that to help us within the classroom? And then, of course, the dreaded AI that everybody's talking about these days. So we have a session looking at how we can maximize AI, not be afraid of it, how to bring it in, how to talk to our students about it, how to engage our students with it in positive ways, rather than scare away from it and then maybe fall foul to it in the future. And then a lot of things around well-being, about why we should care about our students, how emotions play a big part in what happens within the classroom. I'm going to put a link in the chat box. Give me a second and I will write it on my phone, because I would have cut and pasted it. Did that work? That didn't work. Send message. Give me 1 second. You can go to macmillanenglish.com and then go to training and events, and you'll find the registration form in that website. So most things we do are on macmillanenglish.com if they're a global event like this one. Okay, very, very quickly, just letting you know about who I am and what I do. But let's move on a little bit to what it is that we're going to be talking to today. So, if you're based in Egypt, you've probably just started the academic year, and I hope that it's got off to a wonderful start. If in some parts of the world you've already begun, perhaps you started on the 1st of September, you've had 1 month to settle in, and hopefully the new academic year is going well for you. But I also haven't done a webinar for a little while. I haven't done it since before the summer. We did a whole bunch of webinars before the summer, but this is the first one for the new year for me. So I hope you all had a wonderful summer break. And I'd like to ask you a question. I'd like to start this webinar with a question to you guys. Now, you may have gone somewhere. You may have done something fun for your summer break. But I'd like to know, what kinds of things do you guys like to do in your summer break? Where do you like to go? What kinds of activities do you like to do? You can write them in the chat box. If you're watching on your phone, obviously it might be a little bit difficult if you're driving your car or something. But if you're not, then pop in the chat box. What do you like to do in your summer vacation? Do you like to travel? Do you like to stay at home? And if you do, what kinds of activities do you like to do? I'll give you a moment. Travel and continuous professional development. Well done, Amin. Maria, go to the beach. Yes. I'm glad you said that. Lots of people like to go to the beach. Wind off by traveling. Everybody likes to continue their professional development in the summer. You also need to take a break, guys. You need to switch off sometimes, just for a couple of weeks. Travel to popular diving spots. Lovely. Which, any spots in particular are your favorites, Lamia? Traveling and reading. Good. Yeah, nice. So lots of different activities going on here. A couple of you are very similar to me, it seems. I want to find out where Lamia goes, because this is very relevant. Yes, to the Blue Hole in Dahab. Excellent. I've been there before. So I have been very busy over the summer. It seems like people like to do continuous professional development, and probably because I'm in the background doing a lot of those things over the summer. The late summer is usually a very busy time of the year for me. I tend to do lots of back to school events and training sessions, but I did manage to get a short break. And let's see, we're going to do some prediction activities. So I had to travel away from Dubai, and where do you think that I went? Most people are going to recognize this flag, I'm sure. Not Italy, no. Italy, I think, is stripes this way. Anybody recognize this flag? It's within the MENA region. Mm-hmm. Well done. It is, I think it's Jordan. It should be Jordan. So I had to go to Jordan. And does anybody know where you can go to the beach in Jordan? There's one city right in the south of Jordan where you can go on a beach break and a beach holiday. There are many wonderful things to do in Jordan. You can visit Petra, of course, the very famous Petra. You can go to Wadi Rum to see the desert. You can go to places like Jerash in the north, where there's lots of greenery and flowers. Does anybody know the city in the south where you can go to the beach? It is, of course, Aqaba, also on the Red Sea. So I went to Aqaba, and this is why I was happy to see that people like going to the beach and they like going diving, because I got the chance to go snorkeling. I got to go snorkel amongst all of the lovely, wonderful, colorful fish in Aqaba. But something happened while I was there. I was in Aqaba and I was snorkeling. I was having a good time, and I had my little underwater camera with me. But I saw something. I saw something that scared me. Can you guess what it is that I might have seen? I say might have saw, but might have seen. What do you think I could have seen? A shark. That's right. I saw only a baby shark, actually. He was just very small. But I saw a shark and I dropped my camera. Ouch. Now, here's the prediction. Actually, this is supposed to be popping up now, but what do you think? Do you think I managed to get my camera back? Oh, I like the thing. No, I don't want to start singing it, because if it gets in my head, that's it. I'll be sitting in bed tonight going, do, 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 do. Yep. No, I ran. Yes, I swam away very, very quickly. Okay, so that was me, and that was what I did. A very short story about what I did in the summer. Now, before I saw the shark, we've already got one thing. What other things do you think that I might have seen while I was snorkeling? What kinds of things? I did see, I've given you one. I've given you two now. I gave you shark, and I've given you coral. What other things might I have seen while I was on my very, very fun snorkeling trip? Schools of fish. Yep, starfish, seaweed. I saw fish. I saw shells. I saw jellyfish. Any other things that we might have seen? I'll give people a second because they might be typing. Lots and lots of things here, though. Fish, jellyfish, a scary shark. That's right. Lots and lots and lots of different things. Yes, and this is interesting. I'm glad to see this answer. Did I see trash? I probably did see trash. Unfortunately, these days, it doesn't matter where you go to the beach. You usually do see some trash. And we're going to bring that in a moment, actually, this idea. But I can start eliciting from my students. I could, if I was teaching this to a primary class, I could have told them that story. I could have shown them those pictures. And I can start getting them to think about things that they might see under the sea. I can ask, perhaps you guys, how many of you have ever been snorkeling in the Red Sea? Did you enjoy it? How did you feel? What did you see? Lots of people see lots of different things. I can start to engage you with some vocabulary here. And you can probably guess what the topic of our story is going to be. Okay, so we've got some vocabulary, but I want my students to start thinking about vocabulary in a deeper way than just, well, I can show you a picture of a jellyfish and the word for jellyfish and you know that they're the same thing. I want them to start engaging with that on a deeper level. So I'm going to set some activities for my students. I'm going to put them into groups. I'm going to have 7 groups in my class. And it depends on how big your class is, will depend on how big your groups are. Of course, you could have 2 groups doing the same animal if you have very large classes. Again, it depends on how easy you find classroom management. If you find it slightly more difficult, perhaps you've got new students or very young students, you could just do it in pairs, or you could do it in 3s or 4s or 5s. But the idea is the group is going to choose an animal and they're going to create a poster for their sea creature. So maybe they could draw just one big one. Let's just take the shark, for example, and they can work together on the same picture, or they could have 5 sharks if they wanted to, and they could decorate them in different ways, of course. So for the octopus, it doesn't have to just be a red octopus. It could be a pink octopus or a purple octopus. They can give them different looks. They can also describe them. So we want them to start using other types of vocabulary. We want them to use adjectives, but I don't want them just to say, it is gray or it is red, although we're starting to help them produce those early sentences. So they can be saying it is red, it is big, it is small, it has 8 legs, it has fins, it has... this is supposed to be a turtle, not a tortoise, but there wasn't an emoji for a turtle. It seems to have come out as a tortoise for some reason. And I want them to go even further. I want them to give their animal, their sea creature, I want them to give them some kind of personality. So are they scary? Are they friendly? Are they happy? Are they sad? How do their animals feel? What kinds of personality traits can we give to our animals? And I can give them a little time in their groups to put these together. So we're starting to do group work. We're starting to engage with our vocabulary here. We're not even moving to the story. We're doing a lot of groundwork for that at the moment. Of course, there's opportunities for them to start to begin to present, so they can present their poster to the class. So they don't need to learn all 7 pieces of vocabulary. It's very hard for me as the teacher to teach every student all 7 pieces. So what I've done is I've grouped them together and just got them to work in depth on just one. And then I'll get them to work together to share what it is that they've learned, what it is that they've created, and get them to practice producing that language verbally. I'm working on speaking at this point. I'm not getting them to write. I just want to know that they know the vocabulary itself. So for very weak students, I could just ask them a question. So what have you drawn? It is an octopus. Yep, good. Okay, I can work with that. Slightly stronger students, they can obviously develop more complex language. So they can start to describe the personality and have more back and forwards conversations about what it is that they've created. And I could ask students to come up with questions. So they present, and then students could ask questions if they wanted to. But they're working together. They're kind of co-learning in a group the vocabulary that we need for our story. I could also take this one step further. I want them to continue speaking practice. So it's all very well to come up and present in front of the class. That's one particular type of skill. But I also want them to be practicing that speaking on a lower level. So they could create a survey, just like we just did, to see who has seen these creatures. So some of them they will have seen, some of them they won't. Fish, for example, will be very common. And then we can start to work on our critical thinking skills. So we can start to be implementing analytical skills. So which one is the most popular? Which one is the least popular? And why do they think that is? Where have they seen these? We can start to personalize that as well. So we've got a nice survey going on. They're engaging with the topic itself, and they're creating something, they're personalizing it. They're speaking from experience. So at the moment, we've got a nice pre-reading activity going on. For slightly stronger students, this is where I'm trying to edge them towards. So I would like them to do some writing, obviously. They've been doing a lot of speaking, they've got a lot of ideas, they've come up with lots of descriptions, they've got their vocabulary, they've been thinking very much about each of these particular animals. And now I could give them a model. So for example, this could be a poem. Obviously, we need to scaffold this. We need to give them an approach which helps them build this up. I cannot just say, okay, here is the starfish one. I want you to do one for the octopus. They're probably going to struggle with that. So I'm going to scaffold that activity. What's the topic? Which shape? Which animal are you going to choose? What words have you seen? Which ones have you seen yourself or come up with yourself? But what have you seen as we've been doing the share work? So if you're picking an animal, the octopus, have other groups come up with words that you could use to describe your octopus. So can you write them down? Can you bring them in? Can you come up with synonyms? Can they do a bit of research? These types of things. So there's a little bit of language support here as well. They can be using synonyms. And the idea is to get them to come up with a nice, short, fun poem. Not all of them will be able to do it. Again, I could do this in pairs. They don't all have to do one each. They could do this as part of their group. They could choose a different one. I could allow them to move between groups if I wanted to. So maybe they really want to do the shark. I could let them join the shark group. Somebody in the shark group might want to do something else. So we can allow them to move around. We can differentiate that way. Okay, before we get into the reading, though, I'm going to do a little bit more critical thinking work. And I'm going to differentiate this one out. So I've got two pictures of underwater sea creatures doing different things. And I'm going to give groups on one half of the class the dolphins, and I'm going to give the other half of the class, the groups, the shark picture. And I'm going to get them to come up with questions. Now, if you haven't done much critical thinking work, we're going to go back to those pictures in a second. But if you look at the Project Zero, the critical thinking tasks get progressively more difficult as you go through. So when they're very young, when they're kind of, year 1, 6 or 7 years old, we do kind of see, think, wonders. And lots of people do these types of critical thinking. The first two, we see a lot of see, think, wonder. So asking them to look at the picture. So if we look at the dolphin, what do you see? So they would say, I see dolphins, I see paint, I see a person, I see hands. Okay, what do you think? I think the dolphin is painting. And then what do you wonder? I wonder if the dolphin likes to paint. I wonder if they are able to paint pictures that we actually know what they are. These types of things. Or do I want them to move even further up this? So like for level 3, we are developing question starts. So we want children to start developing their own questions. So in the lower levels, we tend to give them the questions. What do you see? What do you think? And then they tend to answer those questions. As they start to develop in maturity, they become 7, 8, 9, 10. They can start to develop their own questions. So I'm not always giving it to them. I'm scaffolding it out. I might give them a model first, but I want them to come up with their own. And in level 4, I want them to start thinking about different viewpoints, and I want them to develop empathy. So we're going to think about getting inside the mind of, let's go back to our picture, inside the mind of the shark. So what kinds of questions would the shark ask to the man? And what kinds of things can we ask the man? Are you scared of me? Might be one. Well, maybe you guys can think of some good questions that come from these pictures. What kinds of things do you think that your students could come up with if they were engaging with these in terms of critical thinking? Let me give you a second. I think it'd be interesting to see what kinds of questions you think that students might come up with when engaging in these types of critical thinking activities. Yeah, what brought you down here? Like, why are you in my world? You don't belong under the sea. This is a good question. And the same for the dolphins. Maybe they would ask for other colors. Do you have purple paint by any chance? And we can come up with lots and lots and lots of questions. And give people a moment just to catch up in case people are thinking. Can we be friends? That's a nice question. I like this one. Do you think the shark likes to be friends with people? Maybe the shark that I bumped into, maybe he wanted to be friends with me. But I never gave him the chance. Nice. People might come up with some more questions in a bit. How many teeth do you have? That's a good one as well. Are you hungry? Yeah, and you're right. That shark does look very curious. And sharks, I think, are very curious. And I think there's actually been a lot of more modern research that suggests that sharks are actually very, very intelligent. So it would be interesting to know and get in the mindset of the shark. Everybody's scared of him, so maybe he doesn't have any friends. Maybe he wants friends. And we'll start to look at this in a moment as well. So we can engage our students in lots of different types of critical thinking activities. And again, we could differentiate this out within the same classroom. We all have mixed ability classrooms. So I could have one group with slightly weaker students that are doing kind of see, think, wonder, kind of low level. Even if they're in year 2 or year 3, I'm still getting them to engage with the picture on some level. And even if it's just eliciting repeated vocabulary, it's still getting them to engage. It's still bringing them into the lesson. It's not leaving them behind. Your contributions still matter within the classroom. And they'll feel power from that as well. They'll feel empowered by being listened to. It's very difficult for students if you're considered to be in the weaker groups, or if you're considered to be a struggling student. You feel like, well, I never get chosen to answer any questions because I'm the weakest one. And then that gap between strong and weak kind of pulls over time. You become weaker and weaker and weaker because you never get to engage, and stronger ones always get chosen to do things, and they become stronger and stronger. It's a bit of a cyclical battle. So we can break that down. Let's see what other people have put. Yeah. Why does the dolphin get to paint and the shark doesn't get to paint? Has anybody ever given a shark an opportunity to paint? And we think about sharks, we always think about sharks as being dangerous, but there are lots of non-meat-eating sharks, right? There are reef sharks, there are small sharks. So maybe we could give it a go and see if they are just as capable of painting as our dolphin friends are. But the idea is I want to push my students up this critical thinking ladder as much as upside down ladder. Let's put level 1 at the beginning. But I want to push them up the ladder as much as I possibly can without making them struggle too much. I don't want them to feel like they just cannot do things. But I can pick and choose my students and see which ones I think are capable of developing more critical thinking skills. So I've done a lot so far. And I've got one more activity that I wish to do before I move into using a story itself. So at the moment, we've done a lot of what most teachers typically do tend to do. Lots of kind of language work, lots of activities. Hopefully you do use lots of group work and sharing ideas. Let's see who that is. Maybe we can turn them off.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Oh, it's okay. Are they gone?
Yeah, he switched his mic off.
Okay, good. Thank you, Lamia. Let me get back to the presentation then. So, in this particular part of the unit. So again, I want my students to start thinking very deeply. So I want them to think about our sea creatures, and I want to think about, in fact, I could pitch this question to you guys. So for many of you, you've perhaps been to the Red Sea, or you've been somewhere very similar. And I want us to think about, what's the Red Sea going to be like in, let's say, 10 years' time or 50 years' time? Is it going to be the same as today? Or will it be different in any ways? And for our students that live in these types of region, if they live in Egypt, obviously they know about the Red Sea, they know about the Mediterranean, they tend to go to Alexandria. If they're in Jordan, they've got Aqaba. If they're in Saudi Arabia, they've obviously got the Red Sea as well. But a lot of students have probably had an opportunity to go to the beach, or they know about the beach, they know about swimming in the sea. So we can start to say, well, okay, how is the sea going to be different? And I'll pitch this question to you guys. What is the Red Sea going to be like in, let's say, 10 years from now? Will it be the same? If I go snorkeling, as I did this summer, and then I come back to Aqaba in 2033, will my experience be the same, or will it be different? Let's see what people say. Maybe they'll say it's the same. If I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my phone. Time alone will tell. Ooh, I don't know about that. I think probably is going to change. Hopefully it will be cleaner, and now fingers crossed, hopefully it will be cleaner than now. But of course that requires effort, right? That requires effort on our part and on our students' part. If they are 8 years old now, in 10 years' time, they will be 18. They will be becoming adults. They might travel to the Red Sea by themselves or with friends. But there's going to be a lot of things going on in their lives which are going to impact upon the Red Sea. For example, population increases in Egypt, of course, have an impact. So the more people that we have in a particular location has an impact on the environment around it. People in Egypt probably like to eat fish. The more people there are, the more fish we're probably going to need to catch. And that will have an impact on the seas that we have. Shipping lanes, we need to move more things around. More things will be traveling through the Red Sea. Lots of these types of impact. More people will be going on holiday during the summer. More people going to the Red Sea means more development, more hotels, more sewage. Lots and lots of things. We can start to get our, and people are saying this within the chat box there, which is great. So lots and lots of impacts ahead of us, but we can also be doing things to protect marine life. We can be creating national parks, all of these types of things. And your students in the future will hopefully be engaging in some of those things. So we can get them to start thinking about some of these topics in a very casual way. We don't obviously want to scare them. We don't want to be like the Red Sea is going to be horrible in the future, but we can start to get them to see that what we do in our everyday life can have an impact on things which are perhaps nearby, but not always nearby, can be in far off locations as well. So we are going to start thinking, and this is the activity that I want them to do. And it's a little bit of both. There's a little bit of writing because I want them to do some note taking, which is, again, a really good academic skill for them to practice. And I've scaffolded that out. So they've got an introduction, a middle, and an end, and they know what that's going to be about because they have a model. So we have a video to watch. I'm going to need to switch screens. Let's go to this one. Hopefully it's here. Oop. This one. Hopefully you can hear this as well. So they get a little video to watch. And it's all about blue whales.
Hello, Nathan. I'm afraid we cannot see the video or hear it, actually. We still see the page of the activity.
Maybe because I'm not sharing the right screen. Hang on a second.
Sure.
You're still... I need to stop sharing and then share a different screen. Give me 1 second. Which one? This one. I'll go back to the beginning. Oh, no.
No, I'm afraid we cannot hear the video, but we can see the right screen, though.
Switching between screens. Hang on. So there's no sound for anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. So she is doing a presentation. It's a classroom-based presentation. So if you saw a little bit of it, you've kind of got the flavor. She talks a little bit about blue whales, and she talks about developments in technology, that people learned how to create bigger boats so that they could catch the blue whales, they would sell them, they would make a profit from them. And that a lot of work has been done in more recent years to start protecting those whales. So whale numbers have started to kind of flourish again. Blue whale numbers have gone up. And that was about her presentation. So I use this really, I'm going to stop sharing this window and go back. Go with the entire screen. That's a shame about the video sound. That's okay. But it gives students a really good model for what it is that they need to do. So they started to see that their presentation needs to have an introduction. They need to choose a particular topic, and they can plan that out through that scaffolded activity. So what is the problem, and what might be the solution, and what could be the result of that? So they get to do a little bit of analysis. There's more language work that's embedded into that I can do with my students. So I'm continuously bringing along their language, giving them opportunities to work on vocabulary, pronunciation, sentence structure, all of these types of things. And then I could, again, set that in a very similar activity to the first. They could present it. They could be doing it in groups. They could be doing it in pairs. They could think about different ways that they want to present. It doesn't always have to be standing up at the front of the classroom with, a poster or something that they've made. They could find digital ways to present. They could make little videos of themselves if they wanted to. They could do it outside of the classroom and bring it back to class. I could find lots of creative ways to get them to create their own content and present that back to the class. And hopefully by now we've got lots of different ideas. So we've managed to not just have a vocabulary and learn the words that we need for the topic, but we've managed to personalize that. We've managed to give them feelings. We've managed to give them descriptions. We've managed to think about that within their own lives. We've managed to relate the topic to where they live, what they do, what they've enjoyed doing in the past. Yeah, we've given it context. Good. So we've done loads of work. So our students, hopefully by this point, are hopefully looking forward to a story. You guys looking forward to the story itself? Should we have a look at the story now? We've done lots and lots and lots of as Amin said, process and product, I think, work with our students. Lots of pre-reading activities, lots of elicitation, seeing what they know, seeing what they can develop in terms of their ideas. So let's move on and have a look at our story. Oh, and these were some of the things that I think pre-reading activities are really, really good for. Motivation, we can build anticipation of the story itself. We can activate schemata, we can have lots of discussions, we can do lots of critical thinking, we can personalize the topic itself. Think about the story I told at the very beginning. And when we go to look at the story in a minute, you will start to make the connection between the story that I told, the personal story, and the story within the book. And we can help them to develop their autonomous learning skills. They have to go out and research. If they don't know much about a particular animal, maybe they had to look it up, maybe they had to go and do some internet research, maybe they had to ask questions, find out if anybody else knows the answer. So there's lots of collaboration work going on there. And they get to develop lots of their skills and strategies. We did prediction. So do you think that I found my camera? What kinds of things do you think I saw? We can be looking at cause and effect. We did that as well. So they're developing these thinking strategies, prediction strategies, academic strategies. We've done some brainstorming. If you remember the coral, when we were looking at the vocabulary, we can look at sequencing. And at the very end there, when we were looking at the whale, we can also bring in the SDGs as well and ensure that when we're teaching in the language classroom, we're teaching them in a way that gets them to think about the world around them and who we are, where we come from, and our impact upon the world. So these are some things that I think are really nice for pre-reading activities. So our story, it's a fiction story, and it's called The Lost Camera. Anybody gather why I told the story that I told at the very beginning? And when it comes to your students, we can tell our students short, what can be personal stories. I may never, you guys have no idea whether or not I ever actually went to Aqaba. Maybe I've never been snorkeling in my life. Maybe I did have a camera, maybe I didn't. You guys don't know that. And your students, certainly primary students, it doesn't matter whether we embellish the truth a little bit. That's absolutely fine. We want to create a scenario that kind of draws them in. I could have been, as I've been doing these activities, continuously getting them to think about my trip or what I've done or what they've done, leading them all into. So when they come to see the story itself, there's a connection here. It's not just I did activities, I did vocabulary activities, I did some grammar activities where I gave you gap fills, and then I did a story, and none of it's really related. I'm tying all of those things together and helping my students move seamlessly through that unit. So this is and I don't think that I have an animation version of this story, but if we are playing it from the internet, it doesn't seem like you guys can see the sound. So let's just read it together. I'm worried about time, so I'll read it nice and quickly. It was a normal day under the sea. Mum and Dad were going to work. My sister and I were swimming to school. Everyone was in a hurry. And again, I could be asking questions as I go along, helping my students to engage with the story. If we're swimming to school, do you guys swim to school? No, we don't. We walk to school, don't we? That's right. Everyone except the divers up near the surface. One of them needed a better photo of an angelfish. Click. But suddenly the camera slipped out of her hand. It fell down into the dark water of the ocean and into our world. Thud, the camera landed on the ocean floor, but nobody saw or noticed it. In fact, I've just realized that I need to read the whole story, and it's going to be on the other screen. So let's switch screens very quickly. We can see the whole story. Nobody saw it except Sandy and me. Where did this come from? Sandy asked. I pointed up. from divers up there. I looked at the tag on the camera closely. Where's Mexico? I asked. There, I told you Mexico was real, Sandy whispered. I'd like to see this world, I told Sandy. But then she had an idea. Let's take the camera back to Mexico. But how can we get there? I asked. Dolly. Dolly is, of course, you guys probably guess, it is the dolphin. Dolly, take us to the surface, please, I shouted. Dolly swam and swam. Up and up we went. Say, starfish. The surface was so exciting. It was our first time there. Suddenly, we saw something. It was a boat. There were people on it, divers. Quick, Finn, let's swim to the boat, Sandy shouted. Thump. The camera landed on the boat. Did you hear something? One diver asked. Hey, my camera, said another diver. I was looking for that. Sandy and I wanted to see some more. Mexico was amazing. Wow, those buildings are so tall, I said. What are the children making? Sandy asked. I didn't know, but it looked cool. We were having a great time until... I'm feeling sick, Sandy said. Me too, I said. We were on the surface for too long and breathed too much air. Quick, Dolly, take us home. Sandy is sick, I shouted. Finn, what's wrong with your sister? Dad asked me. I didn't want to tell him. I thought he would be angry at us. You're airsick, Sandy. Just rest a little and you'll be fine, Dr. Crab said. Airsick? Where did you go? Dad said, or asked. Tell us what happened, Finn. Everything, Mom said. It's a long story, Mom, I said. I think that's the end of the story. And there you can see in the bottom corner, the diver is having a look at what they took on the camera. So she's seeing these Sandy and Finn in the bottom corner. So this is our story that we're doing with our students, and we can do this in a variety of ways. We can show them to them as an animation. We can read it to them. We can help them read parts of it. So we could be setting activities and pulling several students one by one aside to do individual reading of certain parts. I can check that they can read particular parts of vocabulary. I could check that they know the phonic sounds, for example, when they're reading, that they can spell things out. Lots of different things I can do with this story with my students. Let's go back to screen sharing of the other page. Slideshow. Here we go. Okay, so this is our story, The Lost Camera. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the story. Still with us. If you closed your eyes while you were listening to it, hopefully you didn't fall asleep.
Nathan, I just want to remind you that we've got 2 more minutes before the
questions
part. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. So I will whiz through the last part. So we've been using the story, and as I mentioned at the beginning, we want to create a bridge between the language, the receptive part. There are lots of other things in the unit that I can use. There's a song, there's a chant, there's other language activities that we can do with them to help them grasp some of the meaning. That's absolutely fine. But I wanted to move towards this end part. What can I do with the story and all of this body of work that I've been doing with my students? And I want to give them maximum opportunities. I want them to create meaningful pieces of writing. So I could give them activities where I get them to think about the story from a different perspective. So each character in the story has their own unique perspective. Can we tell it from the perspective of Sandy first? And there's an activity that they can use to help them with that. So how would the story be different from Sandy's perspective? And again, they can structure that out. But it could be someone else. We could think about questions from Mom. We could think about questions from Dad. We could create a role play where they act the story out and other students have to play different roles. We could introduce new characters. And we could introduce characters of all sorts of different abilities, or all sorts of different things. Think about things that they've done in previous units, in previous topics. Can we start to bring some of them in? What would happen if we implanted one of those characters from a different story into this story? And students can come up with imaginative ways to develop their own narratives from that. They could use this model to create a new story. So we're thinking about imagination, we're thinking about adventures. So what do they already know? What can they easily change within the story? Again, our characters is one, but we could be thinking about plot, we could be thinking about settings. These guys were going to Mexico, but they could be going to just a neighboring country, or they could be thinking about those people coming to our country. What would they see? So they went to Mexico and they saw students on the beach making sandcastles. But what happens if they was to pop up out of the water and they were outside of Egypt, or they were outside of Saudi Arabia, they were outside of the UAE? What would they see? If they were here in the UAE and they came up out of the water, they would see the Burj Khalifa, for example, sticking up into the sky. So they can start to think about these types of things. Of course, does it always have to be written? It absolutely doesn't. And it doesn't always have to be individual either. We can get students to do collaborative work. We can get them to do pair work, group work, etc., as we have already modeled to them earlier in the unit. So these are the kind of aspects that we want them to engage with when it comes to stories, settings. We've got the setting, we've got characters, we've got lots to choose from. We could certainly implant lots of those sea creatures from the beginning. Again, there could be a shark, he's looking for friends. There could be dolphins, there could be octopus. Lots and lots of different characters can enrich the students' stories, because they started to already think about language around those characters. Now we can start to do something with that. We've given a model for the plot, but that plot could change. It could have a different ending. They could go to different places. We've got different points of view. We can be looking at different personalities, all of these types of things. And the last part is we want them to start developing classroom projects. So we can set this up in terms of what we do with our students, but we want to help them visualize that. And if it's a classroom project, different students' work can be exhibited in different ways. So lower level students, we could cut out their octopus if they have different color ones, and they could be on the wall. Yeah, and they can describe that. So we can get them to be using that language to say, okay, what was it that you've contributed? That's mine, the yellow octopus on the wall. We could also be bringing in, so I've mentioned different levels of work. Think about who creates it. Don't always be you. You can create the template of what your classroom looks like, but have students' work feed into that as much as possible, help them to personalize it. And I always used to like my classroom displays to tell a story. So it's not just vocabulary stuck to the wall, but it can be telling stories. So over a month, my classroom display can change. So every time, for example, I see a Coke can on the floor, I pick it up and it gets added to the nets that's hanging on the wall. And they can start to see, again, those... Oh, someone's saying they can't see my screen. Is that true?
Yeah, it has stopped for...
Oh, okay, hang on a sec. Oh, it says I'm not allowed to share my screen, which is weird. I think maybe because we've run out of time.
I think so. Yep, the meeting, I think, because it's for 1 hour.
1 hour, okay. Anyway, so...
Nathan, sorry. Hi, Nathan. Please try again.
Yeah, there you got it. I must have dropped. Where was I? It's the last slide anyway. So I showed some classroom projects, and yeah, just think a little bit about whether or not your students' work can be integrated into that project as much as possible. And does it tell a story? Does it change over time? I could have hung my, obviously not my real camera because it's worth quite a lot of money, but I could get a fake plastic camera and that could be hanging from the ceiling, and that forms, the basis of that story. And we could be working around that. So create an anchor point, and then we can manipulate stories and narratives and getting them to think about changes over time. So we've run out of time, so let's come to the end. Does anybody have any questions? We've kind of engaged with literacy in terms of pre-reading and activities that we can do to help students to engage with the story itself in the most meaningful way, rather than just kind of pre-teaching them a vocabulary and then kind of doing the story itself. We've set them up for success. We can do lots of things with the story itself. We can analyze that story, think about that story in different ways, bringing in new characters, as we mentioned, or changing it. And then we can move that into classroom projects, a kind of longer term, allowing students to create things, make choices, create things themselves. And we can display that, get them to create new things from that as well. It is absolutely perfectly fine for you to call me Nathan Whaler. I think that's actually nice. I've never heard that before, so that's quite sweet. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time. If you want to know anything more about stories, please get in touch with me. And if anyone has any questions, I'm here. I'm going to stop sharing.
If you have any questions, you may open your mic and ask a question directly to Nathan, or you may write it in the chat box below.
Thank you very much, Nathan, for joining us today. This is Maria with you.
Hi, Maria.
As ever, it was a pleasure to have you at our platform. And I can see the attendees were very actively engaged with you. And you have a new surname now.
I have a new surname, yes. So when people are looking me up on LinkedIn now, they're going to have to look me up with a different name.
Yes.
This afternoon.
So we have another 5 minutes before we close the session. If you have any questions, you can open your mic and ask now directly to Nathan, or you can type it up in the chat box. Ms. Lamia Barakat will read it out for you. We'll hold on for another 5 minutes, Nathan. Thank you so much.
I see lots of wonderful smiling faces appearing. People's cameras are opening.
Yes. Actually, we would like everybody to open their cameras at the end because we want to,
you want to take a picture? Yes, of course.
Picture, yeah, that would be nice.
That's a nice. Thank you.
You can, write a comment. Okay, great. Lots of hearts.
Bianca, raise the hand. I wasn't sure if that's on purpose or accidental. They might have been pressing the emoji button and put the hand up instead. I like Google Meet for this. I like the fact that it has all of these little emojis. Nice.
Yes.
you don't get on Zoom. Yeah, nice, good. Music, drama, and the teaching, and it really makes a difference to your students. The more active we can make it, the more sensory that we can make it. I think this is probably why I do like stories, because it gives us lots of potential to bring sensory learning into the language classroom. Traditional language classrooms were very much seeing and listening, and that's pretty much it, reading and writing, speaking. But now we can do lots and lots of more sensory things. We can get them to make stuff, describe those things, and think about sights and smells. We didn't even engage in, we didn't have much time, but if you're really getting into those stories, you can start to think about all sorts of things. What kinds of smells do you think that different animals under the sea would smell? Because for us as humans, we don't smell anything under the sea, but I think they do, right? So. All
right, sorry about that.
It's okay. Does anybody want to join us for a picture at the end? I'm on. Let's see if a few people will switch their cameras on and give away.
Yes. You can switch your cameras on now, and we can have a nice picture together. Thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Rest of you, if you're interested, we have just a minute or so. We'll have a group photograph together, and you can see yourself on our platforms later.
I can see Amin. Amin, hi. Give us a wave. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, Anna. What about rest of you?
There you go. Thank you for all of your comments and interaction. It was lovely to see. Thank you so much.
Hi, Coyote. Amalia. Welcome. I can see some new faces joining us today. Kindly just mute yourself and just open your cameras, please. Thank you. Hello, Aisha. Welcome.
I'm also going to take one.
Another minute or so. Mandy, just close your and just open your cameras, please.
We've got most people. I've got only missing one now.
Okay, great.
So I've also taken a picture. I'll take another one.
Great, Nathan.
Big smile, everyone.
Cheese.
There you go.
Thank you
so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening, wherever you are in the world. I think there are people from all over the place.
Yes.
Judging by people's names and surnames, I think people are probably joining us. I don't know. Is anyone really, really far away?
I think they joined us from all over the world.
Yes, I saw some familiar names from MENA, Algeria, and
right.
But I think there are people from maybe Europe.
We've got some people from Algeria, Philippines, Ireland.
Philippines, yeah, that's pretty far.
Turkey.
Turkey, excellent. All beautiful places. So I've been to Aqaba, and I've been to Turkey, I've been to the Philippines. I've never been to Pakistan. There's one for the future.
Yes, let's plan it together, Nathan.
Yeah, I would love to.
Right, thank you so much, Nathan. As ever, we are honored to have you at the platform, and we are really grateful to all attendees who were able to join us on a weekend and make this session a successful one. Thank you to Ms. Lamia Barakat for moderating the session. It is always a pleasure to have you. A great support to us at the platform. Ms. Lamia has always been around for us, moderating our sessions. And we look forward to seeing you all in the future events. And we have one on the 11th of November coming up soon. So those who have signed up or subscribed, yes, the recording will be on our YouTube channel in the next 24 hours. You will be able to see the session, those who joined us later. And thank you so much once again. See you. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Don't forget to fill in the link that has been shared in the chat box. That will help you receive your certificate. Thank you. Bye for now.
Hi, everyone.
Bye, Nathan. Thanks.